Wade, good afternoon. How are you?
Doing fantastic. Thanks for having me back on the show.
Well, we're excited to have you back. Tell us what's new since we spoke last.
Well, what we've been working on is psychotherapy for VR. I was looking into helping people that are trying to overcome some of their problems in life, like weight loss. And we found that if you engage not only through audio, but also visual cues in VR, you can help people to be able to overcome some of the obstacles they're facing in life. So you take, usually you have an audio cue or a visual, and you take them into VR, and it engages them even deeper into the psychotherapy in their mind, and so they're able to change kind of the underlying mental state that they're having a problem with.
So, I'm assuming that's stimulating sensory perception.
It sure is. Yep, it sure is.
That's very exciting. If anybody in our audience that's ever been through the medical system with long-term illness or anything of that nature, it can be an incredible help.
It could definitely help. We're also working with speech therapy. And so if you have a problem facing an audience, it's a fear that just about everyone faces in society today. We're helping to overcome that fear when you engage someone inside of virtual reality. They kind of get presented with this audience. And so you get that same kind of sensation that you have when you're facing a live audience. And we have some feedback response as to your tonal inflection, what you're saying at the time. Are you using the right hand motions and gestures? All these different type of things that you need to do to be a good speaker. Well, we put them inside of VR, and so they're able to see in real time and after the fact, after they give this virtual speech, how well they did, and then they can make improvements on their speech patterns and actually become a more effective speaker.
So, what is the traditional method of training?
So right now we're stuck with the computer, which, the computer is amazing. It's been around for many years, and we've been stuck with computer-based training. And that's kind of, you'd watch maybe a PowerPoint or you watch a video presentation, and there's nothing wrong with that. It still is effective, but to be able to enhance what you're doing, if you put someone in VR, it makes that person feel like they're really there. And so that engagement and that immersion that you're giving them, it's like a step above an elevation to what we've traditionally been using in the past.
Okay. And what is virtual reality and how does it compare and contrast to augmented reality?
Sure, yeah. So virtual reality is where you're taken to another place. So think of transportation. Uh, you're putting yourself into a whole nother environment. Whereas augmented reality, you want to see the world around you, but you want to do like an overlay. You want to put something on top of that to be able to interact with your real world environment and be able to do things inside your real world. And it's cool is they're coming out with something to where you can actually do both things. You could be in virtual reality and then flip a switch and then move into augmented reality. So it's almost the best of all three worlds. You could be in all the worlds at once and interacting at any given time when you want to just by flipping a switch.
And let me ask you this: how do these two technologies improve and enhance training for any size company?
Right. So the joy of this is you don't have to spend the money to send people other places. You don't have to spend the money on expensive setups, expensive rigs. We're looking at doing like a crane operator training, so you wouldn't have to take someone on site. You could put something inside an office building, a crane rig simulator, put them inside VR. NASA does the training for people that are going to outer space, and they don't have to have all this fancy gear and setup. They put them inside VR, and they can simulate many of the things that they're trying to train for outside when they launch into outer space. So it's definitely a cost savings. And for me, it's the engagement and immersion, right? You put someone in there, and they feel like they're there. It gives that realism.
That's wonderful. And what are the long-term projection for training tools using VR, AR?
Through the roof. um, I'm very optimistic because I've used it several hours a day, and I see the benefits of it. So it's maybe one of that green eggs and ham scenarios. When you try it out and you get to see for yourself how beneficial it is, then I think you catch that bug and you realize how important it is in everyday life and in training, how you can actually use it in any business situation to train people.
Who can benefit, and what are the upfront costs of developing a training program in VR and AR?
Sure. So I think anyone can benefit from a training program. So anyone that's a training manager or director, or they're looking to elevate their training into something new and different, I think anybody can use it in a factory floor all the way up to, like I said, crane operators, to airline industry. Anyone can train. If you got a training program, we spend over $70 billion in training, so anyone can use it. And the upfront cost of that, of course, there's some development that come with that and some hardware costs. But if you think about the cost savings, you get your return on investment after a few months. A simple proof of concept program would be anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000, and then from there you get to recuperate some of those costs because you use it over a long term. You don't have to relocate people, so there's some cost savings to be had.
Have you started exploring military applications?
We haven't gotten into the military spec space yet. There's a lot of requirements and regulations, so it's more difficult. We've been in talks to some people. We were looking at doing some police training scenarios, but we ran into some hard situations there with not having a gun to facilitate the training. And so we're looking at other investors to come in and help us to facilitate making and manufacturing the weaponry needed to train properly for military and police officer spec.
But that sounds like it's definitely on the horizon.
It sure is.
That's very exciting. So what got you into technology?
Well, for me, when I was young, I bought a computer instead of a car. So I've always thought that it was amazing what you could do with ones and zeros. So from the very beginning at a young age, I was always excited about tech and tech gear and the cool things you could do and how you could enhance your life with it.
That's really cool. What has your experience been with VR?
For me, I got into it about 3 years ago when it first was being announced that two players, Oculus and HTC, were going to be making this equipment in VR. It's been around since the 90s, and I think even before that there was some concept of it. So I tried it out. I bought me a set, and I fell in love with it ever since. I've been using it every day. It's just cool to be inside of it and see there's new development and new content made every day that just astounds me what they're doing with it.
And, you know, I have young nephews that are involved in gaming, and VR is a big part of that as well. So, in your opinion, what makes good training?
For me, I think good training is when it's engaging, right? When you're bored to death and you feel like you're being forced to do it, then you don't retain what you're being trained in, and so then it's not effective. Effective training is when you get into a real-world scenario and you've got to redo what you've learned. You can do it without thinking twice about it.
And is computer-based training better than VR?
In my opinion, no, it's not, because we've had it. It's been around for so long, and all you're doing is you're moving your right hand with the mouse and clicking. With VR training, you can put someone into a scenario. They can walk around. They can interact with objects. So you're immersing someone, engaging them far deeper than you ever could with a flat screen in front of them and a mouse click.
Well, Wade, thank you so much for being on the show. It was very informative. I think anybody that's interested in technology is interested in what you're doing. So if you want more information, go to www.mindfusionvr.com. Thank you again, Wade.
Thank you.